Hi guys, Johnny Good here for Real Home Studio. Today taking a look at how to clean up a problematic spoken word audio recording. Okay, so yeah, this video was inspired from a conversation last week I had with Carola. She runs the YouTube channel Carola in Paris, and she's having quite a few problems with her audio recordings. Now, what she's doing is quite challenging because she's recording on location, she's recording lots of different people, and having various different setups, and you know, with things like where to put mics, with environmental issues, recording in that environment can be really challenging, even for pros and experienced people. You know, I've certainly made my mistakes along the way, and it can be really frustrating when you've been doing a day or two of shooting and you come back to editing and then you think, oh, I didn't get this, or I overloaded this, or oh, this hasn't come out how I was expecting. So that's why I wanted to make this video about how to troubleshoot and fix some of these issues to get away with the best possible salvage job from the audio that you can. So let's kick things off. Here's the recording here from the whole video, which Carola pieced together. Now, straight away off the bat, you can see there's one big problem in that we've got a stereo recording and we've got the information in its entirety on the left hand side, but not on the right hand side. And for this in Studio One, we need to go to the file section and locate the file itself, which I've got on the desktop. And here we are. This is the stereo track, and you can split to mono files, which I've already done. Let's take a punt and see if we get the right one. No, we didn't. So let's just go back and grab this one. So that's our left hand side mono file. Top stuff. We can now remove this track, and we've got our mono track in place to work with. Okay, so the next thing, just looking at this track, you can see we've got some real quiet areas, and we've got some really pretty hot areas here from the, I think that's from the interview recording. So, you know, let's just take a quick listen. So here's
culture and food. So we would stop a few times to get the entree, the main course, and the dessert. And in between, we would stop at places. And
so there's quite a nicely recorded piece of dialogue. Sounds like Carola's just recorded that from inside her home, and then you know, here's the interview.
First, and talked to us for quite a while about his business and about the breads and products.
We've got a lot of background sound, a lot of wind on the microphone, which is going to be challenging.
Dans ma région, l'Auvergne.
He creates a very special bread in here.
And
so yeah, the audio is moving all over the place from the different locations. So the first thing we're going to do now is going to split down this one piece of audio into a few different tracks to gain match the levels as best as possible. Okay, so now we've got our separate tracks all portioned off, and I've just gone through them and just set the levels. So I've been aiming for around minus 12 dB on the faders there, and you know, give or take.
And we're teaming up with Lisa from
Experience.
We went with a group
In the 1980s.
called Mayor of they're taking
Anywhere else in Paris.
So already you can hear that everything's sounding a lot more level and smooth, and we just want to do as much work as we can before we start putting anything like compressors or limiters on, which are going to help to smooth out those dynamics even more. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually add a bus channel down here, and I'm going to call that RX. And I'm going to drop in one of my favorite plugins at the moment, and it comes in Izotope's RX Elements pack, and it's the voice Denoise. We're just going to drop that into the bus, and we're going to then route all of our tracks to the RX bus. Okay. Now we've got it set on this adaptive mode. Now just check this out. If we go to, say, probably the worst offender, which is this last track here. Let's just put it on bypass for now.
520 meters. And if you look around
Just
the
drop it in.
periphery here, this is where all the royalty moved into the Marais. And you can see this is actually what's unusual about the architecture here too, is that you can see
It's pretty impressive, right? Just about saves it. And if you go through some of the others,
it's also a little bit behind the scenes as well. We introduce you to some of the locals, and you might get to meet some of the chefs as well. So today,
Culture and food.
kind of creep in here, and then the Jewish
bypass.
community moved in, and there's a huge thriving Jewish.
It's impressive, right? Really, really, really good plugin, particularly if you're doing this kind of work and you're doing work on the fly and you're going to get background sound, but also like for doing just YouTubing and recording in a busy household, it just cuts out all that background sound. Really great for just recording audio all around. What's excellent is this adaptive mode, because it just kicks in. You don't have to do anything. It's like a one-stop shop. Okay, so we've got that running through there. The next thing we're going to do is just do a little bit of EQ to the worst of these tracks.
Private tours, and we also do group tours. Is when they started to drain off the land and convert it to farmland. So in the 14th century, the nuns manager, when they it used to be all marshy and.
Okay, so I've just gone through some of these tracks and just taken out some of the really unpleasant mid-range on some of the worst offenders, and just knocked out the mid-range just because, just to do a bit more legwork really, before I put in the next plugin. And the next plugin I'm going to use is Nectar Elements. So I'm just going to drop that in on this track here, and this is going to do a lot of the donkey work for us, and I'm all for improving and speeding up workflow as much as possible. So let's just drop this in, and it's going to ask us a question. What are we going for? We're absolutely going for dialogue, and we're going to go for a moderate intensity. So the next thing we need to do is just to press play on our player and go.
And tours that are kind of at a local level. So we provide a very intimate and kind of off the beaten track experience. A little bit behind the scenes as well. We introduce you to some of the locals, and you might get to meet some of the chefs as well. So today we're in the Marais.
So there we go. Nectar Elements has basically optimized and our audio for us. Now, you might want to normally do this by hand if you say had one track to work with, but we've like got 7-8 tracks here, so this is going to really speed up our workflow. We're just going to let Nectar Elements do its thing on each individual track just to improve its clarity. Essentially it's EQ, and it's adding some compression, and it's also de-essing as well our audio. So let's just go through the tracks, run Nectar Elements on it, and see where we've got to. Okay, so we've added Nectar Elements to our tracks. Let me just show you one of them here, and
You can see the
kind of when it's done. So as I say, Nectar Elements adds really an EQ, de-esses, so it gets rid of that sibilance, and adds some compression in there as well. So let's just bypass the effect.
white shirt that Monsieur Fabre is wearing with the red, white and blue collar. And that means that he is a member of a very prestigious club, which is called Meilleur Ouvrier de France. And it is a government competition every 4 years. And only members are allowed to wear the shirt.
Yeah, so it's added some brilliance, taken out some of that mid-range as well. It just sounds a lot more lighter and airier. Yeah, and the best thing of all is, we can rest our ears and just let Nektar get on with it, and then just check it out at the end. And when you're doing a project like this, and you've been doing lots of other things with regards to editing, as I say, anything that speeds up the workflow is more than welcome. The other thing I've done is just drop this analog compressor from Black Rooster in on the master bus, and just find that adds a little bit more body and soft weight to the voice. Take a listen here.
Is wearing with the red, white and blue collar, and that means that he is a member of a very prestigious club, which is called Meilleur Ouvrier de France. and it is a government competition every 4 years, and only members are allowed.
Yeah, it's just adding to me a bit more weight, a little tiny bit more sort of radio style. Okay, so that's our track all sounding pretty evened out. We've got our EQ and our compressor ready done on it, and I've just added a little bit more compression, really more for tone than anything on the mix bus. Now what we want to do is get the level ready for YouTube. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is apply a limiter. And that's going to get our level nice and punchy for YouTube. Now YouTube normalizes at minus 14 LUFS, so we want to get our volume somewhere around there, much further than that, much louder than that, and YouTube will just turn us down. So we want to be somewhere, you know, aiming for minus 14 LUFS. It doesn't have to be spot on, it's just a target. Now I've opened up Ozone, and we're not going to use the EQ or the imager. I just want to use the maximizer or the limiter in Ozone, and it actually has this learn threshold minus 14 LUFS. So let's just go to one of the louder parts rather of the recording, and you're going to notice a volume jump here. So if you've got headphones on or speakers, you might want to turn them down a bit now.
All marshy and swampy around here, and marais in French actually means marsh. And the 12th century is when they started to, Chinese came in, and they did a lot with the wholesale textile trade.
So you can see that the threshold is hovering around here. It's learning the LUFS from the track that we're sending it.
10-year-old grandson, so I think because he could boss him around, you know, because he did have an older adult son that was...
So it seems to be sticking somewhere around there. Let's leave that there for now. We also want to bring the ceiling down to account for any volume gain which gets applied during the encoding up to YouTube. I bring it down to 1 dB. I've seen people that bring it down to 2 dB. I've not experienced any issues having a ceiling at minus 1 dB, but by all means, you know, do your research. But yeah, that just safeguards any volume boosts whilst YouTube does its thing. Okay, so another plugin which can be handy is from Uline. It's totally free, and you can just use this to measure the loudness before you settle on uploading it to YouTube. So, you know, Ozone's very reliable. If we just play it through here.
The 12th century is when they started to drain off the land and convert it to farmland. So in the 14th century, the nuns started to sell.
You can see we're hitting somewhere between 14 and 15 LUFS. So that's going to be absolutely fine as a level for us going up to YouTube. I just want to share with you this section here too. So let me just play the audio. It's got its fair share of problems.
I have with me today Monsieur Christian Verbray. He's the boulanger, and he's the baker, and he's very famous in.
So there's obviously a lot of wind problems on the mic, and there's also a lot of clicks going on, and I just want to use this RXD click just to show you how effective this can be for getting rid of those. So you can set the GUI just to be on clicks only, and then adjust the sensitivity. So at that point we're getting rid of a bit too much speech. Let's have a listen now. Just reverse that and have a listen back.
In front of Au Petit Versailles bakery in the Marais, and I have with me today Monsieur Christian Verbray. He's the boulanger, and he's the baker, and he's very famous in France. He started
so done a pretty cool job of getting rid of those clicks. Let me just pay you that back with it bypassed.
In front of Au Petit Versailles bakery in the Marais, and I have with me Monsieur Christian Verbray. He's the boulanger, and he
very cool stuff. Obviously we've got quite a lot of low end problems going on as well on there. I mean, I've scooped out some of the low end. You can do what you can do with that.
I have with me today
we've managed to improve it somewhat. Okay, and finally, let's just have a look and compare the results of what we've done today. So first of all, off the bat, when you're having a look at it, you can see our file now, our audio file is a lot more even all the way through. So we're going to get a much more pleasant, even broadcast for the listener. We've also sorted out those problems. So let's just have a listen of a bit of a compare and contrast. So here's the original file.
And we also do group tours. And our website is flavorsofparis.com, so you can find us at www.flavorsofparis.com.
And our fixed
neighborhoods, and we do private tours, and we also do group tours. And our website is flavorsofparis.com.
So yeah, the vocal's a lot clearer now, which is great. Some of that background sound's been reduced, and of course we are no longer just coming out of the left side of the speaker. Okay, let's listen to this cutaway section next.
We went with a group, and it's really a mix of history, culture, and food.
So that was a lot quieter last time around.
We went with a group, and it's really a mix of history, culture, and food.
So we've got the level up. It's very clear now, and we've got a bit more compression as well, just giving a bit more of a professional finish. Okay, let's have a listen to this middle section.
Various royalty that lived here, and one of the most famous was Charles X.
That was the same interview from earlier.
And that's because it was already like 350 years later, but they had an election.
So again, yep. Less background sound, nice and clear. Okay, and one more section, let's just have a listen.
Voilà, qui est fait avec des céréales qui sont cultivées dans ma région, l'Auvergne.
He creates a very special bread in here.
So that one's actually not too bad. Let's take a listen on here with it cleaned up.
La miche vabrée,
Okay.
voilà, qui est fait avec des céréales qui sont cultivées dans ma région, l'Auvergne.
He creates a very special bread in here.
That's come out really well. So there you go. It wasn't the perfect audio, but we've managed to salvage it and actually get a really nice soundtrack together using a selection of Izotope plugins and a bit of EQing and compression. Hope that was helpful today. If it was, please do remember to like, subscribe. Most importantly, have yourself a great day.